first, Chris?
What?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. A lot of people testifying today, so I know you'll be quick.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
go fast.
Please, go
Paul
right
Valletta,
ahead.
representing the Rhode Island State Association of Firefighters. We also have with us Paul Reed and I. President Reed will be speaking on behalf of everyone. We also have the presidents of the other locals here if there's any particular questions on local plans that Paul and I can't answer. I spoke at length at the last meeting, so I'm going to try and go real quick here, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I hope it piqued your interest that the General Treasurer chose to send CPAs before you today, bankers before you today, Investment Commission people that she serves with on the committee, and the former Auditor General. I hope it piqued your interest that she sent them here today to rebuke what the stupid firefighter told you last week about the rate of return, that he didn't know what he was talking about. Most of them, and this is such an important part of this whole thing, the rate of return and the mortality rate. The gentleman told you, they gave you their opinion that maybe even 7.50 was too low. Well, I find that real inquisitive, that the Auditor General sits before you today, the Auditor General of the last 15 years in the state of Rhode Island, and he says to you, he thinks 7.5 was even too low for a rate of return, when it was 8.25 for the last 10 years, when the state saw a 5.5% rate of return, the worst 10 years this country has seen since the recession. I go to many meetings. I go to most of the actuary meetings at the Retirement Board. Never once did I hear the sitting Auditor General come to any auditor's meeting or any actuary meeting at the Retirement Board and voice his opinion that 8.25 was too high. That's what it was at that time. The two gentlemen that spoke before you from the commission that the treasurer sits on with, I haven't seen one of them at a meeting stand up and say, I think this is too high. But they come before this committee today, very hypocritical that they come before this committee today and say 7.5 is too low. They had ample opportunity over the last few years to come before you, or come before anybody, but you never heard anything like that. 27 years ago, I took a job with the Cranston Fire Department as a firefighter. I made a pact with the city of Cranston. I would risk my life every day I started my shift, and in return for that, I wanted a fair wage. I wanted to be taken care of if I got hurt. I wanted my family to be taken care of if I died, and I was promised a pension when I retired in 30 years. I didn't get Social Security. I know you've heard that, but I didn't get Social Security at the time. Think of the money the city of Cranston has saved just with me alone, not having to pay Social Security for the last 27 years. So here's your pension. In 1984, when I took the job, here's your pension. You can retire in 30 years, and we'll give you a COLA because you don't get Social Security. And that was my deal with the city. Well, for 27 years, I gave my weekly contribution to the city. They didn't put their half in. What you should know is they didn't even put my weekly contribution in. Up until only 2 years ago, the city of Cranston was taking the weekly contribution of the firefighters and putting it into the general fund. So in the private sector, they'd all be in jail. But in the municipal sector, they're not covered under those federal laws. So think of fairness when that happened, and fairness has been thrown around a lot here. So that's where we are. Here's what I'm asking. We've talked about return of rates, the rate of return. You notice nobody came before you and trying to justify the mortality rate today because they can't. But here's what I'm asking. If it's so unfair the way everybody's been treated, teachers, municipal workers, fire and police, and we weren't the cause of this, then I'll ask you to do one thing. Have them run the numbers again. Have them put the mortality rate at 78, where the Social Security says it should be. Let's split the difference between 8.25 and 7.5. Just for the heck of it. Let's see what the numbers come out. And then when those numbers come down substantially, and I made a mistake when I told you that her assumptions added 1.6 billion, it added 3.2 billion. 1.6 was just one component. So it added 3.2. Change those two components. Just do us a favor, the people that are getting hit the most on this, the people that were promised these benefits and paid for it. Let's see what those numbers are, and then give us all a chance to come to the table to see if we can reach them without destroying people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman DuPont, members of the committee.
In response to Mr. Leach's comment about COLA not being a property right, I believe it's been adjudicated already in the Arena case where it's going up to the Supreme Court. I know one thing, that if they're talking about the third prong, which has been mentioned specifically by Mr. Tarantino, that the firefighters were affected in the city of Providence were receiving a 3% COLA on their first $12,000. After Judge Thompson's decision and the declaratory judgment, their COLAs went obviously on the full benefit, which was quite an impact on the city of Providence. I think that obviously what was Mr. Tarantino said he would argue was argued voraciously by the counsel for the city of Providence. Also, what also piqued my interest, what he said was, if the plan has one or two groups who have special benefits and others don't. Well, you've stripped the COLAs off everyone other than two main participants, the judges and state police. So I don't know how strong your case is going to be when these two groups under the same bill have significantly one greater benefit. Both would receive a COLA, and firefighters, police, and other municipal workers won't. I don't think that helps your case. I really don't. Mr. Valletta talked about age. I'm amazed that we heard, again, many people today talk about the return on investment. We heard nothing on age. Maybe they're not quite as certain as they were that we're going to live to 87. It amazes me, though, that we haven't even heard how they came to that conclusion when the 78 figure was given to us by the Social Security Administration, which I believe does at least as much of an analysis as where the Treasurer's Office got it. As far as the plan and the amendments to the plan, the State Association of Firefighters represent non-MERS people in private and municipal plans are totally against it. And we talk about critical situations in certain plans. I'm in the city of Cranston. I'm 64 years old. To get up to a 60% funding ratio at a 17% will not happen. I will never see another COLA. Now, I'm not alone in all these unfunded plans. What we ask, and what seemed to be demonstrated in the city of Warwick, was that if you listen to Mayor Avedisian, if you negotiate these things, which we're prepared to do on both levels, the MERS level and the municipal level, that you may get significant changes in these particular plans. What they're asking you to do is what they've asked you to do last week: legislate these proposals. They're asking you to do the work that they didn't do. And that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. This is a veiled attempt on collective bargaining. If it's COLAs this year, it's OPEB next year. We're going to get to the point everything in our collective bargaining agreement is going to be against the public. So a few years from now, they'll be talking about not only do we have none of these benefits left or the ability to basically bargain for these things, they're going to be telling you that they want to pick people who are going to get promoted because it's in the public good, and they know better than having a testing system. This is an attack on collective bargaining. That's plain and simple, and it's wrong. They talk about get all the people together in committees and negotiate, etc. Fine. There's no need for, there's no willingness that should be by the community to negotiate. Why? They say they have no money, and that's that. We go to a solvency committee. Look at the solvency committee. There's not one union representative on it. There's no fairness. There's no conclusion. We have collective bargaining in the state. I haven't been in any community where they've actually asked for the no COLA. And I'm talking about West Warwick. I'm talking about in Tiverton. I'm talking about in North Kingston. There are COLAs. It hasn't been a bargainable issue. Now, we have something which we come to impasse. We have arbitration. This should be a negotiated, and if they can't come to an agreement between us, it should be arbitrated. That's the process. It's worked for over 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed.